Hi, I'm Josh Barber from Heirs. We're here at my studio in Kansas City, Missouri, and I'm going to take you through some of my production on our song Pillow Talk from Life is Violence. So again, to reiterate, we went to Ocean Sound Studio in Giske, Norway, and we recorded this record live. As you can see, I mapped the grid around the drummer instead of quantizing him to the grid. So I just kind of let the grid in Pro Tools ebb and flow to what he's doing. And again, no samples, no editing. Here's the kick drum. Here's our snare drum. So the toms, as you can see, I only have 3 tracks here, but I did a top and a bottom mic on them. Did M201 on top and I think 421 on the bottom. And then when we got done and I got the balance I wanted as I was consolidating this, I summed it all to mono and you got this sound. So, and as you can hear, I hand gated them, so I cut them out and tailed them off. Again, on the hi-hats, I typically take the closed hi-hats, the open hi-hats, and I'll separate them. So like on this, there's a couple close hi-hats or closed hi-hats here. Then an open. So they have their separate tracks so I can kind of gauge the volumes and turn them up. So if I wanted to turn up just that. And then the same thing happens with the ride. I did a tight, like a ping and a crash. So a majority of the song he's crashing. So you can hear I gated out parts where it's not happening. And then the bell. On the cymbals, I did individual mics on the cymbals to capture them really clearly. And then we also had a pair of overheads, stereo overheads above them. So that all sounds like this. And that's just to get the definition out of those cymbals. Again, they are hand cut out, so when they're not needed, they disappear. Rooms are really great at Ocean Sound. They're phenomenal. We used a close room, figure 8, compressed it a little bit, a far room really high up in the ceiling, a mono room, ribbon again, figure 8, rejection towards the kit. And then we also had a EMT plate that we ran the snare drum to. So all the rooms sound like this. And this is the kit all together, all the microphones, everything. Now, we did in the verse, I wanted to kind of beef up the verse a little bit because it's just been with the open hi-hat and, you know, kick and snare with bass and Sean's vocals. I took a copy of one of the rooms and I just over distorted it and got this sound. So when you put all those together, you get this. Without. Just a little more aggressive, a little nasty. At the end, when it really breaks down and that part's kind of going between 9/4 and 12/4 and it's, you know, there's a tempo slowdown, it's super heavy. There are these big toms that we went out and I had the guys do out in the room. So printed it through a reverb that I had. And that's how we got that sound. And then there's all this percussion. So one of the things, we took a china with a like a bow from like a violin and got that sound. And then there's some shaker, tambourine, some single tambourine hits with reverb, shaker, different kind of pacings, just to kind of add some depth and texture to stuff. And then bass. Again, I would have taken this, so you can see that there's a cleaner bass sound here for the verse, second verse. And then the majority of the song is actually this bass. So it's all very aggressive. The only thing I did extra is I made this reamp track, and what I did is I pushed the DI signal. I think I did like an HM2 and like another distortion on the other side. Like kind of almost fatiguingly out of phase. So when you put it together with everything, without it, that way when the drums are playing with it in that verse, and then you have the distorted drum kit, you have all that going on, it sounds like this. Now if I take out those distorted elements, it's kind of boring. So that's how you get that kind of, it's such a almost mono feeling thing because it's kick, snare, and bass. I wanted to kind of create some space with those elements. Moving on to the rhythm guitars, not a lot to say here. It's our octave guitars. We used Neural DSP quad cortexes. We profiled the tones here in KC and took them out there and tracked live out in the room together with them. A, because we wouldn't have amps blasting through the drum mics, but also they're just so convenient, and you can have a myriad of different tones just with one press. So we would set up our boards for each song, but the majority of this track is on the octave drop. Now, one thing that's interesting that I don't know, and you've probably heard it, is if you listen really closely on the recording, you can hear me playing that guitar in the rooms. So you can tell right there. Maybe quiet, but it's pretty apparent. So yeah, we just left little things like that in the record. Nothing crazy. This is pretty interesting. So in the second verse, so we wanted a different tone for Chris on that, so we only left my track in. Originally, there wasn't really anything written for that part. We kind of came up with that in the later stages. So when we added overdubs, we ended up adding this for Chris's part. With me in there. And then, of course, we had the lap steel again. Just trying to get those harmonics to push through. A little bit lighter of a gain tone, more reverb. Back here, we have these. And that's in this section. Chris and I were using some industrial fuzz to do that, and all that together sounds like this. So that was really cool. Another thing I want to feature is this right here. This track, I had originally played this riff, but I wanted a friend of mine, Collier Cash. He's a really great kid, good guitar player, and I wanted him to come play a riff on the record because it would mean something to me. So I had this 16-year-old kid come in and play this riff. He's a phenomenal guitar player, and it was a cool riff, and I'm not sure if he's ever played in 9/4 before, but it was an honor to have him on the record, and you know, just we wanted this to feel alive, not only from like our recording standpoint, but we wanted people that we loved a part of it. So that with the bridge. So that's pretty much the riffs. I mean, there is the chorus riff here. We added a keyboard to kind of supplement with it. But speaking of keyboards, this is what's going on in that section. The drone sound, I've got a lot of questions about it, is, again, the ASM Hydra synth. I used it all over this album, and what I love about it is it has a ribbon controller on it. And so I set up a synthesizer that one LFO is slowly taking the pitch out in random, not just in a sine wave, but in random mode. And it's doing it very slowly, and then there's another one randomizing that, and then there's a modulation on top of it, modulating 2 different oscillators out of pitch. So to get these on the note, I have to kind of move my finger, and I was watching like a tuner to try to keep it on. So that's where this sound came from. And that's just, I think 4, maybe 5 passes of the ASM. I added some low stabs into it. I just wanted to create something that was unsettling and not in tune and fighting against the track the whole time. And it actually, the keyboards actually fight through the whole album. Like in the verse, they sound like this. And then they get bigger in the second half. And then more aggressive in the chorus. I just wanted to kind of have this total unsettling vibe to it. And I think the ASM clearly did that extremely well. And again, Sean did the main vocals for this one here in KC. This was a song, unfortunately, due to health issues, we weren't able to track out in Norway. We used a Telefunken 251 into an 1176 into a Neve preamp out there. And then here we used a Warm Audio 251 into my Apollo. And nobody's been able to tell where I cut in my gear to the gear we had in Norway. I'm a big fan of the UA stuff, big fan of Warm Audio. They're just as good as the vintage mics in my opinion. And nobody's been able to call me out on it. So, but here's the song with Sean in it. We'll just cut it to the chorus.
Hey!
Here's just Sean. Got a big delay on that. So that's about it on this song. Again, these tracks are very simple. There's not a lot going on, but it is complex in the fact that we have the main band that tracked, separated all that. There's no editing, and then we just kind of layered, and we added feedback tracks and riffs and percussion and stuff later just to augment the actual recording. But thank you all for all your questions on the songs. I'm glad you're enjoying our album, Life is Violence, and thanks for watching this video.